Today's the day where I'm going to show you how I do some custom paint on this custom bumper using Rustoleum and some SpeedoKote and Digspade products. Should be pretty cool. I got this bumper all sanded and wiped down with acetone. Went to about 180 grit. Wanted to make sure that we had some good mechanical adhesion for the paint to stick to. I've been building metal stuff for a little while and I've had to paint a bunch of it, and I originally, had no idea what I was doing. I just started out with some rattle can. Unfortunately, the rattle can, it really just doesn't hold up for more than a year or two before it starts getting deteriorated by the sun. It just has no good sealing cap layer, so it just really gets degraded by the UVs and salt on the roads and everything else. You really want to cap it with a 2K clear if you want it to last. Another thing about all this stuff is that the hardener and the Intercoat and the clear all have this really nasty thing called isocyanates that is bad for your health. It can give you asthma and breathing problems and some other things. So it's best to wear a good respirator at the very least. Keep your skin covered up, including your stuff around your face and your hair. You don't want this stuff traveling around with you into your house, affecting those around you, your dogs. Spray it in a well-ventilated area. Really, it's recommended to have a fresh air supply mask. I still try not to breathe in a cloud, so I'm hoping 6 to 8 hours should be enough to get this thing totally wrapped up, so I don't have to come back and sand and pick up somewhere. It's like 6:15 in the morning, mid-June, and it's not even barely above 30 degrees, so I'm not going to be in as much of a rush as I thought I was because it's not even warm enough yet. I'm going to go ahead and get this all set up outside, and that way I'm ready to go as soon as it warms up. And I'm going to give it a final wipe down with some wax and grease remover. Here's some of the other things that we've painted with the same style. Obviously Justin's bumper, which his paint turned out really nice. And I also did my skid plate here on this CJ7 and my frame stiffeners. You can see I did black pearl and black flake in that with red flake. I sprayed that all at once. I did not layer it up. Probably did a couple coats. I just mixed that into clear, and the flake had settled at the beginning of the spray, so some spots were a little thicker and heavier on this skid plate than other places. And that's just regular Rustoleum there, rattle can. Sprayed at a similar time, maybe a month or two earlier, and you can see the difference that the clear coat makes. This is already starting to fade a little bit versus protected from the sun under the hood here. See, pretty good difference there. I'm in the process of getting everything gathered here before I get started, because once you get started, you just got to go until you're done. I got some cheap HVLP spray guns off of Amazon, probably about $35 to $50 depending on what you get. I like the kind that has these cups that have the inserts in them. That way you don't have to spend as much time cleaning your cups out. Give the gun a little quick clean and you're good to go on a different coat. Yeah, it's kind of handy to have a couple of them because I use a 2.0 tip for shooting primer, and then I use a 1.4 tip for shooting my base, which would be black in this case, but would be any other color. I'll use the 1.4 tip for shooting pearls, and Intercoat for shooting these big flakes. I'm going to use a 2.0 tip. I'd prefer to use a 3.0 because then you'll get more big flakes coming through, but I don't have that at the moment, so that'll be something down the road. What I'm going to be using today is a Supershift Pearl from Digspade called Sour Lava. I'm going to do one coat of that, probably half to 3/4 the recommended amount. And then I'm going to do 2 layers, I think, of this Tiger's Venom Supershift Flake. This stuff will get sprayed on a black base, suspended in an Intercoat clear. It helps keep the flakes and pearls from settling to the bottom, more even consistency. The color blender, the Intercoat layer, SMR 3500. You can get it pre-mixed by the gallon, but it's better value if you're gonna do enough of this stuff to just get it unmixed. You'll get more material for pretty much the same amount of money. And they have different speed and temperature range activators, both for the clear and for the color blender. I don't have much of this cheap clear left. I'll probably use it up and get some more. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with getting some primer mixed up. 4 ounces of this bare metal primer, Rustoleum, mixed with 4 ounces of acetone here. It's really important to make sure that your mix is really well stirred up. You don't want any unmixed stuff going through your gun there. It's not going to give you a good result. Most failed paint jobs, if it's not from lack of prep, it's probably from a bad mix. So take your time, do a good job, stir it well, and let it sit for a minute, stir it some more. So add probably about a half a cap full of Japan dryer here. Also worth mentioning, if you're working with like a catalyst of any sort, you'll want to also give it a little bit of time to activate before you go ahead and spray it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this some wipe downs with this SpeedoKote SMR 809 wax and grease remover and these blue mechanic shop towels because they're pretty much lint free. And I'm going to wipe it down until the towels are not picking up any sort of residue.
So he's setting up the gun here, looking for about 5 to 7 inches of fan width and from about 5 to 7 inches apart. It's looking pretty good. Yeah, I think that one's pretty good. Maybe just a tiny bit more material.
I'll just bring the fan back a little more and that should...
Out, he'll try to get most all the crevices and tight areas first and then go over the long surfaces and get a full coat. So here he goes. Yeah, keep that distance. He's got most all his little corner pieces done, so now he's gonna go ahead and spray the whole thing. On to the second layer of primer. Second coat is done. Looking pretty good there.
8 ounces of black in this mixing cup. There's 6 ounces of acetone here. And then I'm gonna add 2 ounces of this magic hardener here. 16 ounces total in a 4:3:1 ratio.
Don't forget your Japan dryer.
Oh, right, probably gonna do about a capful on this run.
On to the black layer now. Got it all mixed up and ready to go. So here we go. Start with the hard to reach areas first again, and then we'll move on to coating the whole thing. The first layer of black is all done here. Turned out a little orange peel. They could probably tune in the gun a little bit more, but with all the flakes and pearls, we really don't mind it. It'll make them pop just a little more.
I think that this thing is about flash. I went ahead and checked it in a number of places with this glove. Generally best to start somewhere inconspicuous just in case it's not there yet. But you're gonna just stick the glove, check to see if any paint came off. The idea is it can be a little sticky, but you don't want any paint on it. No paint coming off on the glove except for where I had a little extra on the bottom here, and I'll just avoid painting that for now and go ahead and start putting the next coat on. Second coat is flash. Just checked it in a number of spots. Seems pretty good to go, so I'm gonna go ahead and get to doing the third coat. Should be the final coat of black. It'll go on a little thicker than the other two. And then I'll be able to move on to the Intercoat and the fancy stuff, the real cool part about this paint job. I'm gonna go ahead and start mixing the Intercoat with the Pearl for the first coat. And I am going to filter the fluids before I add the pearl because I don't want to lose pearl in any of the filter. My cups are not going to have any filters and my gun does not have a filter, so that's what's going to allow me to spray the pearl in the flake without losing some of it.
He's just mixing up the Intercoat here. We use this Speedo Coat, and it's just a 1-to-1 on that one with the color blender and reducer. Then we will go ahead and add the pearl and flake to that.
Just the pearl.
Just pearl this time.
So this is the magic right here. Supershift Pearls, sour lava. I've got about 12 ounces of Intercoat made up here, and I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of this in. Roughly 2/3 of recommended. Just wait till you see it getting blended in there.
Some view of that. Yeah.
And just for an idea, I can kind of give you a preview here.
Yeah. That'll be cool. Of course,
Yeah.
I have no idea what I can see on this camera.
It looks red from my view. It's probably green from yours.
It's more like gold.
Oh, okay.
I did see a little green.
Got the pearl all sprayed on there. Ended up having more material than I needed, unfortunately. I was planning on doing 1 coat, but I just did 2 because I had it. I had a little left over here. I'm just gonna mix up another 12 ounces and mix the flake into it. Yeah, I left what was left over of the pearl in there. It's pretty much the same stuff. I have mixed pearl and flake before, but it was recommended by this manufacturer to do the pearl then the flake so you don't bury your flake with your pearl. With this stuff, this is called Tiger Venom. It's a massive flake. Like I said before, I wish I had a 3.0 tip for it, but a 2.0 will work just fine. A 1.8 is the minimum. This stuff you need half the amount that the other stuff needed. I'm just gonna go with half again because last time we did 3 coats of flake and 1 coat of pearl, and I'm thinking I'm gonna end up with 2 coats of flake this time, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it a little bit. But I think with this stuff a little more is nice because this stuff really pops. A half instead of 3/8, that'll be a little more than recommended. I got those last coats of the flake put on there. Ended up being about 2 1/3 coat on just the front. But yeah, it turned out pretty nice, I think. Maybe a little hard to see it with this light here. I've got a 15 to 20 minute window to get this mixed up and start spraying it. Decided to go with their higher end Glamour Clear because I have a bunch of it because we were going to use it to spray Junior's truck. I just didn't have enough of that cheap clear to make it cover, so it's going to mix in a 2-to-1 ratio.
Kind of fancy for a bumper. It's more for like a whole vehicle, but it's what we had. And we'll do 2 coats of that.
Sprinkling.
It's a good thing I finished when I did because it is raining pretty good out there now. Not even 20 minutes after I put my last coat of clear on there. Got pretty lucky. Obviously goes without saying I'm not perfect at this. I have only used a spray gun like this probably a handful of times, maybe 4 or 5 total. I don't expect to have professional results, especially doing it out in my driveway where I'm not in a spray booth. I don't have control over a lot of things. I get bugs, I get bad weather, I get dust. I live on dirt roads. It's better than just regular rattle can, I would say, and it's definitely going to hold up longer. But I sprayed 11 coats, and as a result of doing it all at once, I got some sag here that you can see. To alleviate the sag and some of the wrinkling, I could have done this in 2 sessions. The primer and base coat first, let it cure, then sand it, let it gas off, and then shoot the Intercoat in the clear. That would have probably taken at least the course of a week, if not maybe more. Other thing that I could have done is gone a little lighter on my primer and base coats. Like I said, I got some bugs. A couple spots where the gun probably spit out a little funny. That's probably those little dark halos around some of the flakes and stuff, like that right there. I was under this easy up back here, but even with that, I still got a bunch of these textured spots from the raindrops hitting there. Cool special effect, I guess, right? Yeah, no, not exactly what you're after, that's for sure. I had some pretty extreme temperature swings. Started out at like 30 degrees. There was one point that was probably close to 70. The activator in the Intercoat that I was using is rated from like 55 to 65, so I kind of might have gotten out of that temperature range a little bit, which I think is why in some places when I started spraying the Pearl, I got kind of this textured effect that I had seen before when I had sprayed some speed shapes. It's not very apparent on the bumper, so I just decided to grab this speed shape, try to show you. You can see this side is very smooth. This was the side that was in the shade, and then this side there's some crinkly, real dried up skin looking effect that happened to this side that was hot and in the sun. So hopefully you can kind of see that there. But yeah, I think that that's why that happens, is because it gets out of the temperature range. What would have also been good is getting the gun tuned in a little more. I would have got a better, smoother finish overall. When I shot my 3rd coat of black, it was going on pretty thick, and I think that maybe I might have bumped one of the controls on the gun, so it's good to check that in between coats too. Trying to let it bake out in the sun here. Get nice and cured up. That's where I ran the gun into the piece. A couple spots here. Pretty crappy. What can you do? You know? What can you do? Just get better, I guess. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching the process of this. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.